earthly love was a step towards the divine. It also, women were also pleased by this, even though the symposium was written for and about men. It also liberated women because they had a sense that they were important, that love was important, that relationships were important, faithful relationships, the kind of romantic relationships most women like, I think. This painting is set in a beautiful landscape. Eros, or Cupid, is playing at this tomb, and the tomb can be seen as a symbol of the material world. Death and love are often correlated in literature and in art. Ficino said, Plato calls love a bitter thing, and not wrongly, because anyone who loves dies. And Orpheus calls him bittersweet. Certainly love is a voluntary death, insofar as it is voluntary sweet, and whoever loves dies, for his attention, oblivious of himself, is always turned to the beloved. Psychologically, Eros is a power that loosens or breaks the chains that bind the soul to the body. The spirit of love can break open the psyche. People are willing to die for love. A mother sees their child in danger, she'll totally risk her life for the child because she has lost herself with her love for the child. Pain and pleasure are an attribute of Eros, and all the gods in Orphic theology were ambiguous. They each shared in the temperament of the other, which we'll see in the next picture with Mars and Venus. They each share in the temperament of the other. So these can be seen as two kinds of love, one earthly, one divine. The divine is this woman, probably. She's holding an oil lamp. There's a church behind her. She's taller. She's leaning towards the other woman. The other woman is very simply dressed. She's dressed nobly but simply, but she has no jewels. So probably they're both a kind of noble Venus. One earthly, one divine, but both noble, both good. Are there any? Do you want to ask a question?
Profane. If you say divine, you can combining the notion of the profane and divine Venus?
No, I'm saying in the sense of using the word profane, they're talking, I don't know the exact translation in Italian, but I don't think it's like in a negative sense. It just means earthly, having to do with the physical world, and the other having to do with the spiritual world. Here we have a picture by Botticelli, Mars and Venus.
I believe profane in Latin means, literally, the original sense is what is in front of or outside of the temple, the shrine. So
Okay.
it's the secular world, not the
Right, yeah.
not the reserved divine.
Yeah, because this woman, if she were very gaudily dressed with a lot of jewels and things, we could say, okay, she, it's in a negative sense. But in this way, although this is the spiritual, although she has a supreme role because she's taller and leaning towards the other one, perhaps, yeah, she is superior probably in a sense, but with this idea of equality, that earthly things, heavenly things, they're in a divine interplay.
But it's like the everyday, workaday world, which has its place. It's not
Right.
sacred, but it is
Has
a
its
value.
place. Yeah.
Worthy,
Right.
just lower.
Different, yeah, lower, sure.
Oh,
Mars and Venus. So here we have the idea of the intermingling of the gods. Ficino said Mars surpasses the other planets in courage because he makes men braver, but Venus dominates him. And then he goes on to talk about the astrological chart of where Mars is placed and where Venus is placed. He says, when Mars dominates the birth of a man, he bestows greatness of soul and irascibility. If Venus comes near, she does not impede that virtue of magnanimity given by Mars, but she does restrain the vice of irascibility. Here she seems to make Mars more gentle and thus to dominate him. But Mars never dominates Venus, and there are many pictures of Venus and Mars in the Renaissance with this idea.
Excuse me, did you say who this artist is?
This is Botticelli,
Botticelli,
done in 1483. Takes love as its dominant theme. Symbolism, again, and I'm going quickly because I know we don't have too much time and I'm just going to finish, but the symbolism is taken from various sources, from various mythical sources. This can also be seen as because Venus was married to Vulcan, god of metalworking, and this can be seen as, and she has an affair with Mars. She falls in love with Mars. This can be seen as the moment right before Vulcan throws his net on top of Mars and captures him. But they're lying in a grove of myrtle trees, which is the territory of Venus. She's self-assured, gazing at him. He's completely knocked out. So she is in the powerful role. She has subdued him. Love has subdued strife or war. The satyrs, her little angels that surround her, the satyrs are playing, trying to wake up Mars, blowing in his ear, playing with his armor. But he won't be awakened. She has successfully distracted Mars from his aggressive activities. So Venus tames and mitigates the contentiousness of Mars. But she also loves Mars because beauty, which we call Venus, cannot subsist without I don't know how you say this word, contrariety. Thus a union of sweetness and sting remains implicit. So everything plays its part together. One thing cannot be without the other. And one more quick picture of Venus and Mars. Here, this is a wonderful picture in Ferrara. It's a part of a series of frescoes. Here, Mars kneels before Venus. He's chained to her throne as a prisoner. He bends down in adoration and submission. But his strength is characterized by a restraining virtue. So it's to his credit that he is submitting to Venus, because Venus must always dominate. Okay, and the final picture is the Primavera by Botticelli, done in 1477. And this is the famous picture that is always used to illustrate Neoplatonic themes. It contains Neoplatonic themes inspired by Botticelli's involvement with members of the Platonic Academy. It was dedicated to a young member of the Medici family who was about to be married. And although Ficino discussed love as Platonic, that is, without sexuality, his philosophy was also applied to physical love and physical offspring. It was a wedding gift for this young member of the Medici household. Love between the sexes was also an enactment of the union of souls. We see Eros as a divine force of creation. Here, Zephyr, god of the winds, comes in, and he takes forcibly Claris, a nymph. But because he then feels badly about that, she is transformed into Flora, goddess of spring and flowers, through the mediating power of Venus. And then through the three graces, over to Mercury, who points to the clouds with his caduceus. Love is transformed. However, both are part of the divine cosmic process. The Latin word spiritus means both breath and spirit. So here we have breath and here we have spirit. The three graces represent the three phases of the Neoplatonic doctrine of emanation, as further written about by Ficino. All things flow from the one source of good and beauty, fulfill their earthly purpose, and turn back towards their source. They form a circle from God to the world and the world to God. This painting has also been seen as a talisman, bringing in helpful, rejuvenating influences. Ficino said, beauty is a quality or grace infused into a thing by God, by an act of grace. But a thing can be prepared to receive this grace by arranging its parts, by imposing arrangement, order, or harmony upon it. Ancient sages talked about drawing down divine beings into their shrines by attracting or securing a part of the soul of the world. And Ficino talked about creating things that served as a mirror to catch a trace of this soul of the world. It contains within it some echo, taste, or substance of the divine idea. So in conclusion, all communication between mortals and gods was through the mediation of love. And in Ficino's and Pico's system, the entire Greek pantheon began to revolve around Venus and Amor. The whole world is connected through love. Fire, water, air, earth, space, it's all held together through attraction, through mutual attraction and love. All things are preserved by the unity of their parts. With the dispersion of their parts, they die. He calls the cosmos a splendid machine and says that all the parts are fastened to each other by a kind of mutual charity, so that it may justly be said that love is the perpetual knot and link of the universe. So the aim of Ficino's doctrine was to teach man to feel his affinity with God, to become aware of his own center. He conceived of transcendence as an integrating force, and felt that only by looking towards the beyond as the true goal of ecstasy can one become balanced in the present. Yes.
A question occurred to me in the middle of your talk.